Are you excited to learn from the Don? I am. Emeka Nobis is about to leave you blown on topics you never knew you needed to know about. Sit easy and enjoy the class.
In 2009, I had the first accident of my life. I've had two. I was taking my fiance, is that how they call it, whichever, the woman I wanted to marry, to go and see my aunt in Warri at the time. So we left Warri, and somewhere along the express, on the way from Warri to Port Harcourt, somewhere around Madonna University Teaching Hospital, we had the accident. The driver was turning a bend. He didn't see the oncoming vehicle. It was his fault. And we were at the front. I was sitting close to the door. And then he had a head-on collision with the oncoming vehicle. We woke up on the ground. Didn't know what was happening because we were asleep. Both of us were asleep beside the driver at the time. And they took us to the hospital, and then surgeries happened. After 3 months, we were discharged from the hospital, we went home. Took us more than a year to be able to fully recover and be on our feet again. Of course, the wedding was postponed by 1 year, and we did the wedding instead of 2009, our wedding now held in 2010. In 2019, I had another accident. At that time, I was traveling. I was on the Third Mainland Bridge with my friend. We were moving from the mainland to the island in Lagos. My friend Muteefe was sat by my side on my left at the back. This was happening around 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 minutes past 8 in the morning. And we had booked the ride. It was Taxify, now Bold. The driver slept off on the steering wheel as we were descending from the Third Mainland Bridge into Obalinde in Lagos. The accident happened at around approximately 8:20, 20 minutes past 8. It was very traumatic at the time. We had surgeries. I had surgery. Mutefe had surgery on his teeth because it was teeth that was affected. I had broken on those two occasions. My legs were broken on those two occasions. So right now I have 2 implants on my left leg, one in the upper thigh and the one on the lower limb. After those surgeries, I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to walk. So you see, when individuals want to stand up from their seat, they just stand up from their seat and they just walk. It's so easy for people to do. But at that time, I realized the joy, how what we take so simple could be quite very difficult, because I had to learn how to walk again. And I remember when I was learning how to walk, I remember one morning, I had been given the pair of crutches, but I was afraid to use it. And then this nurse came in. She had to carry me on her back into the toilet to go do my thing and come out again. And she laughed at me. That lady was very strong, to having to carry my frame and my weight and everything and get me into the toilet to ease myself and then come back again to the bed. And she laughed at me. But that made me understand how what we take to be so simple could be quite something that I wasn't doing so normally. It made me to reflect on my condition. The fact that I could easily stand up and walk before the accident, but now I was taking I was taking it in strides to learn how to walk again. And that brings us to the things that we do in life. You find out that many of the things that we do in life, actually, or if I can say all the things we do in life, we learned how to do them. We learned how to kiss. We learned how to write. We learned how to fly a plane. We learned how to have sex. We even learned how to lie. We learned how to prophesy. We learned, a lot of things. Even now in churches, people are learning how to speak in tongues. And that's the truth. So we learned a lot of the things that we are doing right now in our lives. And that is to say that also success can be learned. If you think about it, success can be learned. And in this session, I'm going to share with you a few points when it had to do with learned success. So this session is about learned success. Learned success. Number 1 is you've got to be able to commit yourself to a purposeful existence. You've got to find something that is meaningful for you and purposeful for you and commit yourself to it. You know, when we talk about purpose in life, people think that purpose is something that God has to speak to you and boom it into your ears. But also the scriptures that people read is that you find something and commit yourself to it. Whatever your hand finds to do it. Especially if there's a disclaimer there, or there's something that undergirds it. It has to be something that is meaningful and utilizable and useful to yourself, not negative but positive. So you've got to be able to find something and commit your life to it. I found my own journey. I found my own life. I found my what I'm committing myself to, my speaking, my writing, my training. I'm committing myself constantly. I've committed myself, my life entirely to it. And that is the absolute truth. It brings joy, it brings awesomeness, it brings fulfillment. You've got to be able to commit to something that is meaningful and purposeful for yourself on the earth. Then the second point I want to share with you is that this life that we are living currently right now is lived by rituals, the tiny consistent things that keep the grind on. Tiny things. Think about when you are breathing. Think about when you're sleeping. Think about when you're eating. You can't exist without the breaths, even though they are tiny. They just come out tiny from your nostrils, but you can't exist without them. So life is lived by rituals, the tiny, consistent things that keep the grind on. You've got to realize that. So if you observe the tiny details of your life, you find out that when you do those tiny, consistent things, those are the things that build up into the great results that you experience on the externals. It is important. So what are the rituals that you are keeping? For me, when I wake up in the morning, one of the rituals that I do is to go into the toilet. That's the place where I receive it. I know maybe as you're watching now, you may be like me. I walk into the toilet, I'm sitting there and I'm doing my thing, and inspiration begins to flow. And I create majority of the content that I give out, apart from the videos actually. But the majority of the written content that I put out for the world to consume, I created right there inside of the toilet. That's one of my rituals, to create something for people to begin to consume before I begin to consume other people, before I begin to consume all the content that I created by other individuals. That's one of my rituals in the morning. The other individuals have other rituals. Like one of my gurus, his ritual is wake up in the morning, don't touch the phone. He sits down, closes his eyes, does his meditation, and after a while, there's another ritual he does, which is smiling. He smiles for 20 minutes because he wants to step out in the world and be a blessing to other individuals. And part of being a blessing is to smile at other individuals because it lightens them. It makes their faces to light up with gratitude for being alive and to be human. So what are the rituals, those tiny, consistent things that ought to be done that will give you the great, magnificent results that you ought to experience in your life? The third point is the fact that we live this life and there are taboos that we must adhere to. For me, as I'm going on the path of thought leadership, there are things that I don't do anymore. They are taboos to me. There are relationships that I cannot keep. There are places that I can't go. There are things that I can't do. They are taboos. They are taboos. Something happened recently, right? Chatting with the opposite sex. Something happened recently to me that made me remember what happened to me some years back. So a woman reached out to me and said she was having issues with her husband and that she wanted me to have a chat with her. I refused to have the chat, but I told her we needed to go on a live video call so that I could have a live video call with her one-on-one. Why did I do that? It was because of the experience I had some years back. So there was a woman who had come to me. She was having issues with her husband, and then we were chatting. Part of what I shared with her to do was to see if they could have a separation for a while because the relationship had become abusive and toxic. So I advised if it was going to be possible for her to live apart from the man for a while they sort out their priorities and see if they could still get back together to continue on the relationship. This lady, I don't know, in a period of vulnerability or something or weakness, whichever, she handed over the phone to the man. The man went through our chats, and at 12 midnight, I got a call I looked at the call, was wondering who was calling me at that time of the day. I ignored the call because I needed to fly out the next morning to somewhere. I was in Lagos at the time. I needed to fly out to another city to go to speak. And the call kept on coming. By the fourth time, I picked up the call, and here was the man on the phone shouting at me, telling me why I'd made the woman to want to take a decision to split, put them apart. And if I was enjoying my own marriage, and why did I want their own marriage to scatter? That wasn't my decision. That wasn't what I had advised her to do. But I don't know why she had to give the man access to our chats. And so I made a decision at the time that it was a taboo for me to be chatting with married women and having those kinds of conversations with them. It became a taboo for me. What are your own taboos? Because you need to live life by your taboos. The things that you cannot do, the things that have become sacrosanct to you, that can aid you to get the kinds of results that you're looking for based on your value system, on your personal brand, on what you're pursuing as purpose for your life is important. The next point is mentors and coaches and trainers and masterminds. For you to be able to be successful, actually, learn success demands that you have individuals that you can submit your faculties to be able to learn from them. For me, I have my mentors, I have my coaches, I have my trainers, and I have my masterminds. My life today is an amalgam of the teachings of these individuals, of their experiences, an amalgam of their experiences, an amalgam of their perspectives and perceptions about life. And take them, I marinate them, and I take the useful parts and I execute on them, and then I see my life experiencing the results that I'm experiencing. I share with you a story that was shared by a woman called by name Madam Awoshika. Many of us know Ibukun Awoshika. She's an amazing businesswoman. So she shared something that I learned one time, and I took it and I'm practicing it, and I can see the results in my public speaking. So she said something that there was a place that she had gone to speak at an event, and she met a woman that related to her something that happened many years back, like 10 years ago. So there was a wedding in the house, and she came out and she wanted to get all of them ready to go to church. So there were girls who were there making up the helps, the bridesmaids, the cousins and the nieces and all. They were all in the sitting room and doing all the makeup and all that. And so she was, everybody should go to church. And then there was the girl who was doing the makeup, approached her and said to her that she needed to make her up. Ibuka Awashika said that in all her life, she doesn't do makeup. And then look at her face, she just applies powder, and that was it for her. Do a little bit of maybe rubbing a lip gloss or something. That was the lady took that response from Ibuka Awashika and translated it in a way that was negative. What she got as feedback from what she had said was that Ibuku Awoshika didn't consider her expert enough for her to touch her face. Because for all we know, she's a multimillionaire. But that wasn't what she had meant. And so she had gone to another church to speak. And there was the lady also in that church. But now, 10 years later, she had become better at what she was doing. But what Ibuka Awoshika had said to her many years ago was still in her heart, paining her. You could imagine that 10 years after, she could bear the brunt, the hurt, the pain. And so at that event, she had approached the pastor and said she needed to talk to Ibuka Awoshika. Of course, Ibuka Awoshika was in the room where the pastor was and beckoned on them to tell the lady to come in. And then the lady came in and narrated to her what had happened 10 years ago. And she opened her arms, hugged the lady, and asked her to sit on her laps and explained to her that even 10 years after, she looked at her face, she still had no makeup on, but just natural stuff and with her lip gloss. That had made her to begin to look at humans from a human perspective. And so when she's traveling at the airport and somebody, oh, Ibuka, she spends some minutes, a few seconds or so to pay attention to the individual because the individual is a human. Humans want to be seen and want to be listened to. And so she said she now makes a conscious effort to connect to them and pay attention to them is a consciousness that she has embraced and has become a discipline to her. And I decided I was going to do that for myself. So when I go to speak at events, people will meet me, I give them attention. When they're in a crowd, you see me holding someone's hand, you see me paying attention, you see me hugging, you see me tapping, because I want them to know that I see them. At airports and times I'm traveling, people, I pay attention, give them a few seconds of my time because I want them to understand that I see them and I see them and I love them and I'm grateful for them following my works and being able to be blessed by the things that I share. They want to be seen and heard. I learned that from Ibuku Awoshike, and that's learned success, and I'm utilizing that in my speaking engagements, and I'm seeing the beauty of it. The next point I want to share with you is separation. The Proverbs 18:1 says, a man having separated himself intermeddleth with all wisdom. There's a point where you need to separate yourself from other individuals so that you can incubate and you can receive from the universe and you can have some inspiration, whatever I call it. That is why footballers go to camp, because they need to separate themselves away from the family, from every form of distraction, to be able to bond with other members of the team so that when they go to World Cup or to a tournament or whichever, they are focused to deliver and to get the results. That's why boxers also go to camp. They spend 3 months sometimes in camp. I mean, the boxers, Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, name them, Anthony Joshua, Klitschko brothers. These guys will always go to camp, stay in the camp for 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, practicing on how to defeat their opponent when they get into the ring. Separation is important because it helps you to get focused, to make success to happen. I did from time to time. I leave my family, I can go and lodge myself in a hotel, find somewhere quiet so that I can have some form of concentration to connect to the divine that is inside of me. It helps me get better, helps me to know, to tap into the reserved powers and the energies that are inside of me as a human that are untapped yet. That's what separation does for me. It refreshes my mind, it rejuvenates me, it makes me more energized to be able to carry on. So you've got to learn the practice and embrace the practice of separation from time to time so that they can intermeddle with inspiration that can help you to get better at what you do. The final point I want to share with you when it has to do with learning success is that even with all the things you're doing, if you don't do practice, then you can't get the results, can't get better. And this is where I love footballers. I loved footballers, or I still love Beckham, David Beckham, and Ronaldo. These great guys, what they do or what they have done on the football field. Somebody like Beckham, I watched a documentary of David Beckham, and I saw that this guy spends hours and time on the football pitch practicing his free kicks. You can go, he's retired now as a footballer, but you can go on YouTube, and you're here on YouTube, search for David Beckham and his documentary and watch how he takes his free kicks. And so when he gets into the field, because of what he has done out of the field in practice, it's easier for him to take great free kicks. I mean, he's someone like Andrea Pirlo, also of Italy. Great guy at taking free kicks. Constant practice. So it's important that you've got to be able to practice and practice repetition. It helps for you to have learned success. And for me now, there's nowhere in my life that repetition is so dominant than in growing an organizational culture. The thing is that you have staff who are working for you in a business. They belong to different organizations, religious organizations and other places that are constantly drumming into their ears certain certain thinking, certain ways of living, that they take in these things and then they come into the workplace. It's our responsibility as business leaders to constantly drum in their ears how to behave within the organization and to maintain the culture. Case in point, many of them attend different churches or they go to different places of congregation, and they are taught different things. Some of these things that are taught may be in misalignment with the company culture and ways of doing things within the organization. So when they come back on a Monday or they come back on a Saturday or whichever, you've got to be able to constantly drum it in them by repetition to constantly align them with the company culture and the way the organization is run. That's repetition. Also in marketing, I see it in marketing. I do it now. I do a lot of repetition to constantly drum it into the ears of the prospects, the need to be able to buy so that they can better their lives by virtue of the products and services that I render, I offer. So repetition, practice and repetition is critically important when it has to do with you having learned success. And so learned success is a form of self-leadership. You've got to be able to lead yourself into success, influence and fame. You've got to be able to lead yourself into productivity. You've got to be able to lead yourself into great and phenomenal results that you want to get for yourself. As usual, I usually want to share with you resources. I've got lots of resources that have bettered my life. And most importantly for me are books. So I have the resource here. This book has been of great help to me. It's called Launching a Leadership Revolution, Mastering the 5 Levels of Influence, written by Chris Brady and Orrin Woodward. Very phenomenal book. So I recommend you to get it. It's available on Amazon and get a copy. I love printed books and I love them original because I love the scent of printed books, and I hardly lend my books out because I need to have them with me anytime I want to have some reference. I interact with my books. So I'm introducing this to you. I'm recommending this book to you. It's called Launching the Leadership Revolution. It's going to help you with your ability to lead yourself and have learned success. A whole lot that you can learn from the book. All right? So go ahead and get a copy for yourself from Amazon. And I look forward to you truly living a remarkable life. Once more, my name is Emeka Nobis. I urge you to live your best life always. Ciao.
He's the dawn, the man of the hour, and we can know this, got the internet power.